Okay, well, it's been a couple of minutes. We've only got a few people so far, but I guess I'm gonna get started. I do have... Okay, I have an update on accounts 50v50 in the new mode, but I think because there aren't many people here right now, I'm gonna save that until the end. So, like, people have time to show up and stuff. I don't know if anyone is gonna show up, but... Okay.
New mode stream.
That would be funny, but I don't want to leak anything yet. And besides, it's going to be out very soon. But okay, let's go ahead and get started with the questions then. First one from Obama. Are mode swap times going to be moved earlier, somewhere like 7 to 8 p.m. EST? So I did a little poll on this, and people were in favor, a couple of people were in favor of moving it, so it's probably the time that mode switch is probably going to be moved back to like 5 or 6 p.m. EST. And the next question from Rosalina, will you add other guns like the P90, grenade launchers, RPGs, and more? So I can't say which in particular, but we do have a couple grenade launcher type weapons planned for the future. That is something that we're going to be adding. Should be fun. Okay, how many people do we have now? Alright, 5 people. Okay, now that we have a few more people, I guess I can get into my update on what everyone has been waiting for. So I'll start with the new mode. It is mostly finished. All of the structures are finished. The new equipment is mostly finished. And there are just a couple of perks that we need to finish up. And then we should be ready for a public beta test sometime early next week, sometime in the next few days, and then the actual release will be a day or two after that. And then for accounts, yeah, we already have like basic login and logout functionality, as I mentioned in the previous update, and now we also have basic stats, so things like kills, damage, time survived, games played, etc. That's all in, but this is only on the back end, which is like the server, so there's no actual interface for any of this yet, but the code is in fact getting there. And I won't get into specifics, but I've also gone through with this legal agreement to use some proprietary authentication software, which was like, I wouldn't say it was a roadblock, but it's something that needed to get done. We have someone on the dev team who wanted their project to be a part of the account system, and we made it happen. So yeah, there's that. And then for 50v50, yeah, we decided to essentially prioritize accounts over 50v50 because of how many people have been basically begging for accounts. Obviously, we are still going to add 50v50 and maybe even work on it at the same time as accounts, but I think accounts are going to be our main focus going forward, at least for a while. And just as a reminder, the mode that we're working on currently that's almost finished is going to act as a sort of stepping stone to 50v50, so it'll have a lot of the same guns and maybe some of the same perks as 50v50. It'll allow us to kind of test some of that stuff beforehand, balance it. Okay, after I die here, we'll get into the next question. Okay, actually this is kind of leads into what I was saying earlier. From Flying Fish Egg, what is the expected time when the next game mode 50v50 and accounts are coming out? It can be broad. So as I just mentioned, the new mode is coming out sometime in the next few days. I'd imagine it shouldn't be too much longer. And then for accounts and 50v50, just the sheer amount of work that's necessary makes it so that we can't really give an accurate estimate on how long it'll take. But for accounts, I'm aiming for like the end of the summer. For 50v50, hopefully the end of the year, or maybe the beginning of next year. I'm not really sure. But again, none of this is set in stone. The actual release dates are likely to be different. Could be later, or could be earlier. I don't know for sure, because again, there's just so much work involved that it's difficult to give an accurate estimate of that. Okay, and we have a couple questions from Queen. What do you think about making maps smaller? This is something that I'm going to do to compensate for lower player counts. You know, it's kind of hard to find other people on the map because it's so big and there aren't that many people. So yeah, I'm going to make the map smaller. And in the future, I want to add a system which will essentially dynamically adjust the size of the map based on player count. So if there are more players, the map will be bigger. If there are less, it'll be smaller. And yeah, that should help a lot. Second question from Queen. Any plans for fixing harvest mode? I do acknowledge that there are some balance issues with harvest mode. We are going to fix it, but we don't have any concrete plans for how to fix it yet. The person who originally designed the mode no longer works on the game, which kind of complicates things a little bit because we don't really know what their original intentions were for the mode. So yeah, that makes things a little bit harder, but we'll get it done. We'll get Harvest more balanced. And already one thing that I did in the previous update is I made level 3 equipment rarer because it was just like crazy common before. So now it's a little bit rarer. That's one thing, and we'll just keep making incremental improvements. And yeah, we'll get there eventually. Next question from Andre. Didn't they think about making a perk mode with 5 to 10 different characters? So I'm not going to give too much away, but that is what our 50v50 is going to be. And from Sampo Koski, any plans to expand early game 5.56 weapons? Yeah, we do need more early game weapons, but right now we're kind of focused on the new mode and accounts and getting that stuff up for you guys. We do need more early game weapons, yes, but we have essentially higher priorities at the moment. That is something we'll be adding, but yes. Okay, and next question from Storm. Will you add any game modes any new game modes similar to Surviv.io, like 50 versus 50 and Cobalt. So again, I'm not going to give too much away, but we are going to be adding a 50v50, which will have some elements of Surviv's Cobalt mode. So yeah, that's the thing with our modes. They sort of take elements and inspiration from Surviv's modes, but they're never like exact copies. They're never exactly the same. Like Harvest mode here, which is sort of a combination of Woods mode and, I don't know, Savannah. Wait, have I not been... I swear, I haven't been sharing my screen, have I? Nope. Okay, let's do that. Fortunately, you can still hear me. But yeah, the gameplay will be on YouTube. The first 12 minutes of gameplay. Okay, next question from EJT5. Will you add in-game chat? The answer is no, we're not going to be adding any sort of in-game chat, whether it's text-based or voice-based, because it's just too much work to moderate. It's not something that we want to deal with. And if you want to talk to people while playing the game, there is Discord for that. We have a Discord server which you can join at discord.suroi.io. So just go there if you want to talk to people. There's really no reason to have in-game chat. All it's going to do is cause problems for us. Okay, and a few questions from Pekka Tank. Thoughts on the state of the game? So, in my opinion, which is obviously biased, the game is better than it's ever been, but of course player counts have been dropping for a while, and I think there are a few reasons for that. First and foremost is, of course, Surviv, which is basically our competitor. And then there's also the fact that it's summer, a lot of kids play the game in school, and yeah, they wouldn't be playing right now. And then there's the fact that we haven't had any new content in a couple of months. But again, we have that new mode coming soon. We have mobile apps planned. Actually finished, they just need to be published. Everything is in place for that. So that should be soon. And we also have a potential partnership with another .io game, which could get us some more exposure. That would also help. All that together should help boost player counts. And second question from Pekka Tank. Anything you want from the community? So the main thing that I want is I would like people to make more content about the game, like more YouTube videos, stream more on Twitch and stuff, because there's been like a real drought of content lately. And the third and final question from Pekka Tank. How about a mode where it's lots of islands surrounded by water? And I've had some ideas for this, which I will get into in the next question. From Breaded25, Are there plans for alternative island shapes? Squares don't really look like islands. So I'm probably not going to touch any of the existing modes, especially like normal mode, because it's kind of, that's part of what it is at this point. But I have had some ideas for a summer mode, which wouldn't be anything coming out anytime soon, but it would have multiple islands generated by Perlinoise, which is the same algorithm that Minecraft uses to generate terrain. And then you would be able to move between these randomly generated islands using drivable boats, which I think could be pretty cool. Having like water-based combat could be interesting. But again, this is like very far off, far future type stuff, and none of it is set in stone, so I don't really have any guarantees that any of this will ever see the light of day, but I think it's a cool idea. Okay, next question from Shadow X. Will there ever be community-made servers? So I would say that entirely depends on the community. The game is open source. Anyone is free to host it and modify it however they'd like. We have seen a few like community projects based on the game. None of them particularly big. And I do want to make an official list of like community servers and projects in the future, but it's not really a high priority at the moment. Okay, next question from SquareCube. Is there anything you can publicly reveal that's planned to be done after 50v50/accounts? I would say we don't have any concrete plans for anything past 50v50 and accounts. There is the summer mode that I talked about just earlier. That's an idea that I've had. And we've also thought about a desert mode, which would be, it would have a much larger map for one thing, and it would have drivable vehicles. If we were to do a vehicle mechanic in the game, we would make absolutely sure that it's the best out of any .io game. I'd really want it to be something that makes us stand out. Because, you know, there are other games like Battle Dudes which have vehicles, but they're not particularly fun and not many people use them. So if we were to do vehicles, we would be sure to make them the best that they can be, and the best of any .io game. And a couple questions from Jay. What are your thoughts on BattleDudes.io? So I was just talking about their vehicles, how they're not particularly fun. And yeah, I haven't played the game a whole lot, but I don't find it particularly fun, to be honest. And a second question from Jay. Will there be tanks in the vehicle game mode? I'm gonna say probably not. Again, none of this stuff is set in stone. It's like pretty far off in the future, but I would say we're probably not adding tanks in the vehicle game mode.
War Thunder in Suroi be like.
Yeah. Okay, and we've got a question from Hey Boy 420. Tell us in your words how managing a game on this scale is. Is the initial investment worth it in your opinion? How much is the stress levels from managing the project and the team members and the hierarchy of Order 2? So, is it worth it financially? Absolutely not. I've put probably hundreds of dollars into the game at this point and got nothing in return, but that is by design. The game exists to be fun and to be open, not to make money. So it's just like a passion project for us. And the goal is to make the game as good as it can be, regardless of whether it's actually profitable. That was never our goal. So financially it's not worth it, but is it worth it to me? I would say absolutely. Yeah, I've learned a lot from the game. We've built an awesome community, met a bunch of people, and I would hope made a lot of people happy with the game. That's really my goal. And we have had issues with organization and communication. It can definitely be stressful at times. It can be mentally difficult for me to deal with, for other people to deal with. But I would say in the end, it's definitely worth it to build this game for you guys. Of course I was gonna get destroyed. It's difficult for me to play and answer questions at the same time, so the gameplay is never going to be very good, unfortunately. It's just kind of like filler in the background while I talk. Okay. And question from ASA. Do you have any tangible plans to increase the player base? Right now, that seems like a huge issue because it doesn't matter how much good content is being developed/released if no one is playing the game. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a new mode and mobile apps coming out soon, as well as this potential partnership with another .io game. And that, I think, will help to boost our player counts. And also I want to look at ways we could spend our donation money on marketing, because we do have quite a bit, and I don't want it to just sit around. I want it to be used, and marketing would definitely be a good use of it. As I mentioned previously, we've done a Google Ads marketing campaign where we spent $200. That didn't really do a lot. So in the future for marketing, I want to look into other platforms like TikTok and Instagram. And leading into this, we have another question from MP220YT. What do you think about sponsors, advertisement on famous YouTube videos, and should Suroi be advertised like that, since no one read Google Ads, I guess? And as I just mentioned, this is one of the ideas that I had for marketing. Well, actually, I didn't mention that I'd like to maybe pay some people to promote the game in their videos. That's definitely something that I want to look into. We don't have a lot of money to offer, so we wouldn't be able to get anyone particularly like with a lot of presence, but I think any sort of exposure on like social media would be helpful to us at this point. So definitely something I want to look into. And our next question from Sergeant Amazing. In the future, will you consider having quicker map/mode swaps, kind of expanding on what Obama has asked. For example, switch it out at random every day or every other day. We've had a lot of people who are heavily against this sort of daily or every other day sort of mode rotation, so it's not something that I want to add, and in fact it's probably going to be the opposite, where normal mode becomes essentially the default, and you'll see modes popping up as more of sort of a special event once every few weeks, and hopefully, depending on how much time we have, whenever one of the modes will come back around, it'll come around with some new content or fixes or something along those lines to help keep things interesting. I don't know if I've gotten a single kill. Like, this is probably my worst gameplay ever, but that's not really the point of this stream. Again, it's just like filler. And next question from S7Fire30. In the future, when or if there are more players, will you be able to play different modes or like different groups, like duos or squads? And the answer is yes. Once we have enough players, we're going to have different modes and maps simultaneously. Solos, duos, and squads will be available at the same time, and potentially another mode or two, but that does depend heavily on player counts and if we're able to get them back up. Because with our current players, that's just not going to happen, unfortunately. We're probably going to have to keep doing the mode switching for the foreseeable future. Okay, question from Dreammakers. Do Suroian lives matter? And to this I would say, not to the people who release the gas on the island and force them to fight to the death. I think if Suroian lives mattered to them, then they wouldn't be doing this. Okay, and our final question from Crimson Haze. Will you add a chaos mode where dev weapons drop and loot tables are completely random? So, a mode like this, as fun as it might sound at first, it would get pretty old pretty quickly, constantly having OP weapons. So, maybe it's something we would do for like an April Fool's mode, but not like... it wouldn't be a regular thing if we were to have a mode with, you know, dev weapons. So yeah, that's the end of the questions from the thread that I have responses prepared for. So now I can go through and answer some questions from the chat here, which I won't have responses prepared for again. So yeah, it's going to be a little more off the cuff, but okay, we've got one from Really Hyper. How many guns will be in 50v50? So I can't say how many exactly, but there are going to be a number of new guns, some of which again are going to be in the new mode that's being worked on right now that's almost finished. I don't know how many there are going to be in addition. Okay, and Gleaner asks, are ads inevitable? I wouldn't mind, just would like to know when they might appear. I don't expect us to have to add ads anytime soon. We have plenty of money in the bank, plenty of donation money, in case like the game does blow up and we get a bunch of extra players, we need more powerful servers, we can pay for that. And yeah, currently I am paying for the North America server out of my own pocket, and even if it does get more expensive, I want to keep doing that if I can. As for the other servers, those are run by volunteers. I'm not sure if the volunteers will be able to afford to buy more powerful servers. If they can't, then we'll end up having to buy our own servers for those other regions besides North America. Which could get expensive, but again, that's only if we blow up and get a bunch of players. I think we have a lot of capacity, a lot of room to grow with our current infrastructure. We can probably handle 200 players easily. And to be honest, I don't expect us to get very many players anytime soon. It depends on how our, mobile apps and things we have planned for marketing. It depends on how that stuff goes. But yeah, to answer your question, you shouldn't expect ads in the game anytime soon. I'm only going to add them as a last resort if we need money to keep the game running, which is not something that I see happening anytime soon or maybe at all. Okay. And another question from Gleaner: makeshift plushie in the distant future. I do want to make Suroi merch. That's definitely something I want to do. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm not sure how many people would buy it, but I would definitely want a Suroi shirt and a mug. That would be things like that. That would be cool. And yeah, even a plushie. But again, we do have a lot on our plate. I'm not sure when we would do anything like that. It's not exactly a huge amount of effort to set up merch. For something like a plushie, it would be more work. But it's definitely something we can do. Alright, and there are a few more questions here. Alright, these are the same questions that were asked in the other chat. So, alright, we're getting to the point in the stream where I'm going to ask people if anyone from the audience wants to come up and speak with me. You can, so just go ahead and click the button to raise your hand if you'd like to speak. And yeah, if we have anyone from the audience who would like to come up and speak, just go ahead and raise your hand. You can speak to me if you'd like. And if not, I'll probably go ahead and end the stream here because we don't have any more questions. Yeah, the gameplay this time around really was atrocious, but that's kind of just how it goes when I'm mostly focused on answering questions. Can you ask any questions? Yeah, you can ask pretty much anything about the game. Ask away. I wanna be transparent with you guys. And yeah, answer any questions that you might have about the game. But it doesn't look like we have any, and no one has raised their hand yet to speak. So I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the stream there. Oh, okay. No, we have one person.
Hello.
So I was wondering, what, if you know him, do you know who Andrew Prowl is?
I've never heard of them.
He's a music producer. I was just thinking if you knew who he was, I wanted your opinion.
Oh. Yeah, well, I haven't heard of him. Sorry.
I couldn't think of anything else to ask.
Okay. Well. Alright, I think that's gonna be it then for this stream. It was good having y'all. Kind of small turnout.
Thanks for remaking Surviv.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yep, no more questions. Nobody coming up to speak, so I'm just gonna go ahead and end the stream there. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you next month. So long.